They came on a Tuesday, no warning. No negotiation, just fire from the sky. The ships descended like falling stars, beautiful almost until the first beam cut through downtown Shanghai. Glass towers folded like paper. Millions of voices became silence in seconds. Then Paris burned. Then Mumbai. Then São Paulo. By nightfall, Earth cities were graveyards lit by alien floodlights. The Galactic Empire called it pacification. Humans called it the end of the world. The invaders were the Kraith, bipedal, scaled, efficient. They'd conquered 47 worlds before Earth. They knew the pattern: shock, subjugation, exploitation. Resistance always collapsed within weeks. Biologicals were predictable. Primitives even more so. Earth would be no different, except it was. In the ruins of Denver, a mechanic named Maria Reyes crawled from beneath a collapsed parking garage. Her hands bled. Her ears rang. Above her, a Kraith patrol skimmer hummed past, scanning for survivors. She pressed her face into the rubble and held her breath. When the sound faded, she stood. Around her, the city was bones. Steel twisted skyward like broken ribs. Smoke blotted out the sun. Bodies lay scattered, some whole, most not. She recognized her neighbor, her mail carrier, the kid who worked at the coffee shop. Something inside Maria cracked. Not broke. Cracked open. Beneath the grief was something older, hotter. It tasted like iron and fury. She found a tire iron in the wreckage, gripped it tight, started walking. Across the planet, millions made the same choice. In the forests of Finland, a teacher named Oscar gathered children orphaned by the bombardment. He taught them to build snares from scavenged wire, to move silent through snow, to strike fast and vanish faster. In the Australian outback, a farmhand named Cade learned that Kraith armor couldn't stop a modified harvester blade swung with enough hate. In the subways of New York, a programmer named Jen hacked into alien supply drones, redirecting medical shipments meant for occupiers into human hands. Governments were ash. Armies were scattered. The old world was gone, but something new was rising. The resistance had no leaders at first, just pockets of rage coordinating through salvaged radios and scrawled messages. They ambushed patrols, sabotaged supply lines, learned the enemy's patterns, their weaknesses, their fears, yes, fears because the Kraith, for all their technology, had never faced an opponent that refused to stay broken. One night, a Kraith commander named Thexavol reviewed casualty reports in his orbiting command ship. 53 soldiers lost in a single week. Not to organized military resistance that they'd crushed in the first days, but to scattered attacks by civilians. He watched helmet cam footage from a failed patrol. His soldiers had entered a human settlement expecting compliance. Instead, they found explosive traps hidden in children's toys. Elderly humans with sniper rifles. A woman who detonated herself and 3 Kraith in a grocery store. Thexavol's scales prickled. These creatures fought like they had nothing to lose. Because they didn't. 3 months into the occupation, the resistance struck its first coordinated blow. Across 12 cities simultaneously, human cells attacked Kraith biorefineries, facilities where the invaders processed Earth's organic resources. The attacks were crude, desperate. Many fighters died, but every refinery burned. The message was clear. You can take our world, but we'll make you pay for every inch. The Empire responded with overwhelming force. Orbital strikes leveled entire regions suspected of harboring insurgents. Kraith ground forces began executing civilians in reprisal. 10 humans for every dead soldier. The galaxy watched through intercepted feeds, expecting humanity to break. Instead, recruitment tripled. Maria Reyes stood in a warehouse outside the ruins of Phoenix addressing 200 survivors. Most were wounded. All were exhausted. Behind her, a captured Kraith officer hung from chains, still alive, staring at them with unblinking eyes. They think we're animals, Maria said quietly, her voice carried in the silence. They think terror will make us submit. She turned to the prisoner. They don't understand what they've done. She looked back at the crowd. Farmers, shopkeepers, a surgeon with only one arm, a 12-year-old girl clutching a plasma cutter. They killed our families, burned our homes, took everything. Maria's hand tightened on her weapon. No longer a tire iron, but a Kraith energy blade pried from a corpse. So now we take everything from them. The crowd didn't cheer. Cheering was for victories. This wasn't victory. This was the beginning of vengeance. In orbit, Thexful received another report. Another convoy ambushed. Another outpost overrun. Human casualties were staggering, but they kept coming. Kept adapting. Kept learning. His second officer spoke carefully. "Commander, perhaps we should request additional support from the core worlds." Thexful's claws drummed against his console. "No," he said slowly. "The Empire does not ask for help subjugating primitives." But his eyes lingered on the tactical display, hundreds of red markers spreading across Earth's surface like infection, like fire. He didn't know it yet, but that fire was about to spread much farther than Earth. Deep in an underground laboratory beneath the ruins of Geneva, a scientist named Dr. Amara Chen stared at a vial of glowing crimson liquid. Kraith biotechnology, stolen from a research facility. The Empire had used it to terraform worlds, to augment their soldiers, to reshape biology itself. Now it was in human hands. Amara injected it into her own arm. The pain was immediate, blinding. Her DNA rewrote itself in seconds. Her bones hardened. Her muscles tore and regrew stronger. Her eyes burned red when it was over. She lifted a steel beam with one hand. She smiled through blood-stained teeth. "Let's see how they like fighting monsters." The transformation began in darkness, beneath shattered cities. In hidden bunkers and abandoned mines, humans injected themselves with stolen alien biotech. The Kraith had spent millennia perfecting it. Liquid nanotechnology designed to reshape flesh, enhance biology, adapt organisms to hostile environments. They never imagined it falling into human hands. They never imagined what desperation would do with it. Dr. Amara. Chen's first volunteers were the dying soldiers with shrapnel embedded too deep to remove, civilians with radiation poisoning from orbital strikes, a young mother named Sarah, who'd lost both legs in the Denver collapse. They had nothing to lose and everything to prove. The serum didn't save everyone. 15% died screaming as their cells rejected the foreign technology. Another 20% survived but remained barely functional, their bodies trapped between human and something else. But the rest. Sarah grew new legs. Not human legs, something stronger, faster, covered in crimson biometallic plating that grew from her own bone marrow. When she walked, the concrete cracked beneath her feet. A soldier named Marcus found his ruined lungs replaced by organic processors that could filter toxins and extract oxygen from almost nothing. His skin hardened into flexible armor. His reaction time tripled. They called themselves the Red Breed. The Kraith called them abominations. The first encounter happened outside the ruins of Moscow. A Kraith patrol, 12 soldiers, standard formation, swept through what remained of a residential district. Their sensors detected no human signatures, no heat, no movement. They were wrong. Sarah dropped from a collapsed overpass, landing in their center with enough force to shatter the pavement. Before they could react, she'd torn through 3 soldiers with bare hands that moved faster than their armor's targeting systems could track. Marcus emerged from the rubble like a crimson ghost. His body low and predatory, he covered 20 meters in 2 seconds, his blade half steel, half-grown bone, punching through Kraith helmets with surgical precision. The remaining soldiers opened fire. The plasma rounds that would have vaporized normal humans splashed against biometallic skin, absorbed and dissipated. The Red Breed felt the impacts but didn't fall. They advanced. When the firefight ended, 12 Kraith lay dead. Sarah and Marcus stood among the bodies, breathing hard, their crimson skin glowing faintly in the twilight. "How do you feel?" Marcus asked. Sarah looked at her hands, powerful, inhuman, terrifying. "Like they just made a mistake," she said quietly. She was right. News of the Red Breed spread through the resistance like wildfire. In hidden labs across the planet, scientists refined the serum. They learned to customize it. Some variants enhanced strength, others speed, others sensory perception. Some volunteers became living tanks, their bodies armored and massive. Others became ghosts, their forms lean and swift, capable of infiltrating Kraith installations undetected. The transformations were irreversible. Once injected, there was no going back to being human. Not fully. Many hesitated. Then the Kraith executed 10,000 civilians in reprisal for the Moscow attack, broadcasting the executions across every occupied city as a warning. The volunteer lines tripled overnight. Maria Reyes stood in a medical bay converted from an old subway station, watching the newest batch of red breed awaken from their transformations. 50 volunteers, 41 survived. She'd taken the serum herself 3 weeks ago. Her body was leaner now, denser, wrapped in crimson plating along her spine and forearms. Her eyes glowed faint red in dim light. She could hear heartbeats from 50 meters away, smell fear, move faster than any human had a right to move. The cost was written on every volunteer's face: the pain of transformation, the loss of their former selves, the knowledge that they'd become the monsters necessary to fight monsters. One volunteer, a teenager named Jin, stared at his transformed hands and wept silently. Maria knelt beside him. "You're still you," she said softly, "just stronger now." "I'm a weapon," Jin whispered. "Yes." Maria didn't lie. A weapon aimed at the ones who destroyed our world. They made us into this. Never forget that. Jin looked up at her, red eyes meeting red eyes. Will we win? Maria thought of Earth burning, of billions dead, of the Kraith Empire spanning 1,000 worlds. Will make them regret ever finding us, she said. That would have to be enough. The Kraith Empire noticed. Reports flooded into high command from Earth. Enhanced humans. Impossible speed. Unnatural strength, resistance to standard weaponry. At first they dismissed it as exaggeration. Battlefield hysteria. Then they watched the footage. In the council chamber of the Imperial Dreadnought Dominion's End, 7 high commanders studied holographic playback of a red breed assault on a fortified position. They watched 12 humans tear through 80 Kraith soldiers in 4 minutes. Silence filled the chamber. Impossible, one commander finally said. Humans are Class 4 biologicals, weak, slow. Their technology is primitive. That was our assessment, another replied grimly. They've adapted our own biotech, changed themselves with it. Then we adapt, Commander Thexeval said coldly. Deploy the Razorcasta. If these humans want to become weapons, we'll show them what true weapons look like. The others nodded. But Thexeval studied the footage again, watching a human woman, small, seemingly fragile, lift a 2-ton transport vehicle and hurl it into a squad of his soldiers. For the first time in his 40-year military career, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. The Razorcast arrived on Earth 3 weeks later. They were the Kraith Empire's elite. Soldiers enhanced with military-grade biotech, trained since birth for war, equipped with weapons designed to shatter entire cities. 50 Razorcast could conquer most worlds. The Empire sent 200. The battles that followed made the early occupation look like skirmishes. Red Breed and Razorcast clashed in the ruins of London. Their combat so fast and brutal that normal humans couldn't follow it. Buildings collapsed from stray strikes. The ground itself cracked from the impacts. Both sides took devastating casualties. But the Red Breed learned, adapted, evolved, because that's what humans do. In a bunker beneath the Andes Mountains, Dr. Chen worked on the next generation of serum. Around her, volunteers lined up. Thousands of them now, from every nation, every background. Are you certain about this? Her assistant asked, looking at the new formula. The projections suggest it might be too unstable. Amara looked at the screen showing Razorcast massacring resistance cells across Europe. Stable isn't enough anymore, she said. We need to be better than them. Faster, stronger, more willing to sacrifice. She loaded the crimson liquid into syringes. We need to become the thing that makes the galaxy afraid of the dark. In orbit, Thexeval received word that another Razorcast battalion had been destroyed. Completely. Not defeated. Destroyed. Nothing left but bodies and ash. His claws trembled slightly. How many humans did this? He asked. 37, Commander. Enhanced variants. They're calling themselves Red Breed, Thexeval stared at Earth spinning below, a blue marble wrapped in fires and hatred. We should have sterilized this world from orbit, he whispered. His officer didn't disagree. But it was too late now. The red infection was spreading. The war changed. The day humans left Earth. For 8 months, the resistance had fought defensively. Hit-and-run attacks, sabotage, survival. The red breed held the line barely, against wave after wave of Kraith reinforcements. Then Maria Reyes stood before a council of resistance leaders in what remained of Beijing and said 5 words that altered the course of galactic history. We take the fight to them. The plan was insane: a salvaged Kraith transport ship, 40 red breed volunteers, a suicide mission to strike at a Kraith supply depot orbiting Jupiter's moon Ganymede. They called it Operation Prometheus. The Empire had stolen fire from humanity. Now humanity would burn them with it. Marcus piloted the captured ship, his enhanced neural processors interfacing directly with Kraith systems. Sarah led the assault team, veterans of 100 ground battles, their bodies sculpted by combat and crimson biotechnology into living weapons. As they approached Ganymede, alarms shrieked across the station. The Kraith had detected the stolen transponder codes. No turning back, Marcus said quietly. Sarah smiled, her crimson eyes reflecting starlight. Good. They hit the station like a meteor strike. The red breed tore through airlocks and bulkheads, moving through zero gravity with predatory grace. Kraith soldiers scrambled to respond, but they'd never fought in their own installations against enemies who could rip through reinforced walls with bare hands. Sarah caught a razor-cast warrior in mid-leap, her enhanced strength allowing her to crush his armor like paper. Jin, the teenager who'd wept at his transformation, moved like liquid shadow, his blade finding gaps in enemy defenses with surgical precision. The station's commander sealed himself in the command center and sent one final transmission to High Command. They're not human anymore. They're something else, something worse. Emperor, save us. The transmission cut off as Sarah tore through the blast door. When the red breed returned to Earth, they brought more than victory. They brought intelligence. Supply routes, fleet positions, command codes. And they brought proof that the Empire could bleed beyond Earth's atmosphere. Within weeks, more raids followed. Human strike teams hit outposts on Mars, mining facilities in the asteroid belt, research stations orbiting Saturn. The Kraith fleet that had seemed invincible was now fighting, on a dozen fronts simultaneously. The galaxy watched in shocked silence. Humans were pushing back against the Empire, but victory came with a cost written in flesh and sanity. The latest generation of red breed serum pushed volunteers further from humanity. Some grew additional limbs, their bodies restructuring for combat efficiency. Others lost the ability to speak, their vocal cords replaced by organic weapon systems. Dr. Chen stood in her lab, staring at her own reflection. Her skin was more crimson plating than flesh now. Her eyes glowed constantly. She'd enhanced herself with each new serum iteration, using her own body as a test subject. She could barely remember what food tasted like. Music sounded like noise. Human touch felt distant, muted. Are we still fighting for humanity? Her assistant asked quietly. Or have we become something else entirely? Amara didn't answer, because she didn't know. The turning point came at the Battle of Europa Station, the Empire's largest military installation in the Sol system. 10,000 Kraith soldiers, orbital defense platforms, enough firepower to reduce Earth to glass. The Resistance sent every red breed they had, 300 enhanced warriors against an empire. The battle lasted 17 hours. Maria led the charge, her body a crimson blur as she tore through defensive lines. Jin disabled shield generators with precision strikes. Sarah held a choke point alone against 50 razor cast, her body absorbing damage that would have killed her months ago. The red breed didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like forces of nature, relentless, unstoppable, terrifying. When the last Kraith defender fell, Europa Station belonged to humanity. But only 93 red breed walked out alive. Maria stood among the bodies, human and alien alike, and felt nothing. No triumph, no relief, just the cold calculation of war. We're winning, Marcus said beside her, his voice hollow. No, Maria replied softly. We're surviving. There's a difference. News of Europa's fall reached the Galactic Empire's core worlds like a shockwave. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Empire faced an enemy that adapted faster than they could respond. Humans were learning Kraith technology, improving it, weaponizing it in ways the original designers never imagined. The Imperial Senate convened an emergency session. Some called for complete withdrawal from the Sol system. Others demanded total extermination, burn Earth and every human settlement to atomic dust. But a few, a terrified few, whispered a different question. What if they don't stop at Earth? They didn't. 6 months after Europa, human ships, captured, modified, crewed by Red Breed, struck at Kraith colonies beyond Sol. They liberated slave worlds, destroyed supply convoys, spread the serum to other oppressed species. The Red Breed became legend, nightmare stories told across the galaxy, the monsters that hunted monsters, the prey that became predators. The Kraith Empire, which had stood for 3,000 years, began to fracture. In the ruins of what was once Washington, D.C., now the Resistance headquarters, Maria Reyes stood before a holographic display, showing human-controlled territory spreading across the galaxy like crimson veins. She barely recognized herself in the polished metal's reflection. More weapon than woman now, more legend than person. Behind her, Jin approached, now a commander himself, his body so transformed that his own parents wouldn't recognize him. The Kraith are requesting peace negotiations, he said quietly. Maria stared at the display, at the red markers representing human forces, at the thousands of Kraith worlds still untouched. No, she said simply. Maria, we've won. We've taken back Earth, secured the system, proven we can defend ourselves. She turned to face him, her crimson eyes burning in the darkness. They came to our world. They burned our cities. They killed billions. They thought we were weak. Her hand clenched into a fist, the biometallic plating along her arm gleaming. They wanted to teach the galaxy what happens to primitives who resist. So now we teach them what happens when you awaken something that refuses to die. Jin saw it then, the same truth Dr. Chen had realized. The same truth every Red Breed warrior carried in their transformed flesh. They weren't fighting to reclaim humanity anymore. They were fighting because they'd become something humanity created when pushed too far, something that couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. Vengeance made flesh, wrath made eternal. Across the galaxy, Kraith worlds dimmed their lights and prayed to gods who'd forgotten how to answer. Because humanity had learned a terrible lesson. When you fall far enough, when you lose enough, when you transform yourself into the weapon necessary to survive, you don't climb back to what you were. You rise as something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, something it would never forget. Orbit above Earth, a fleet of crimson-hulled ships prepared for another strike. Inside, thousands of Red Breed warriors, once teachers, farmers, children, dreamers, readied themselves for war. They'd paid for their survival with their humanity. Now the galaxy would pay the debt in full. Dr. Amara Chen, more machine than woman now, recorded her final log entry. We didn't want this. We wanted peace, family, future. They took it all. So we took something from ourselves, our limits, our mercy, our humanity, and we forged it into vengeance. The galaxy thought we were weak. They thought we'd break. They were wrong. We didn't break. We evolved, and evolution, once started, doesn't stop. The Red Breed isn't an ending, it's a beginning. In the darkness between stars, the Crimson Fleet jumped to hyperspace. Hunting. Always hunting. Because that's what weapons do. And humanity had become the sharpest blade the universe had ever forged. Tempered in genocide. Honed by loss. Wielded by the memory of a blue world that once knew peace. The Kraith Empire thought they were conquering Earth. Instead, they'd awakened something far worse than an enemy. They'd awakened a reckoning.